I'm Anna Ross, 55 years old, and I thought I had my life figured out until that Tuesday morning in the El Paso community garden changed everything. The roses needed attention again. I knelt in the dirt, my hands working automatically through the familiar routine of pruning and feeding. At my age, gardening had become therapy, a way to fill the quiet hours that stretched endlessly through my days. The archery range paid the bills, but these morning moments in the garden fed something deeper. Excuse me, are you using organic fertilizer on those hybrid teas? I looked up to find a blonde woman crouched beside my plot, examining my soil with scientific intensity. She was younger, maybe 30, with piercing blue eyes that studied my roses like she was solving a complex equation. Been using the same mix for 15 years, I said, wiping dirt from my hands. Interesting. The nitrogen levels look optimal. This wasn't your typical garden small talk. Most people complimented the blooms and moved on. This woman was different. You sound like you know what you're talking about. Veterinarian, she said, extending a surprisingly strong handshake. Tessa Alexander. I just moved into the condos across from the garden. Anna Ross. I teach archery downtown. Tessa's eyes lit up with genuine interest. Archery? That requires incredible precision. We talked for 20 minutes about drought-resistant plants and soil composition. Her knowledge impressed me, but more than that, she listened when I spoke. Really listened. When was the last time someone had done that? I should get going, she said finally, checking her watch. Emergency surgery at the clinic. Of course. Save lives. Just a cat with a broken leg, she smiled. But thanks. As she walked away, I found myself watching her confident stride, the way she moved with purpose. Something stirred in my chest that I hadn't felt in years. Damn it, Anna, I thought. You're 55, act your age. But later that evening, as I sat alone in my apartment with leftover Chinese takeout, I couldn't stop thinking about those blue eyes and the way she'd said my name. Anna, like it meant something. 3 days later, I was setting up targets at the archery range when the clinic door chimed. Derek, who owned the gym next door, poked his head out. Anna, there's a woman here with an injured bird. Says she needs to see you. My heart did this stupid little skip when I saw Tessa cradling a red-tailed hawk in a towel. Blood stained the fabric near its wing. Found him by the highway, she said. All business now. Arrow wound. Clean entry. Missed the bone. Damn hunters, I muttered, examining the shaft. That's one of mine. Custom fletching. You can tell? 20 years of making arrows. This came from my range. Her blue eyes searched my face. Can you remove it safely? We worked together in Derek's back office, Tessa's hands steady and sure as she sedated the hawk while I carefully extracted the arrow. Her fingers brushed mine when she handed me the forceps, and I felt that same spark from the garden. Beautiful work, she said softly, watching me clean the wound. Your hands are incredibly steady. Years of practice. The hawk would recover fully. Tessa insisted on driving it to her clinic for overnight observation, and somehow I found myself in her passenger seat, watching her confident hands on the steering wheel. Coffee? She asked, when Wooey'd settled the hawk in recovery. I owe you for the emergency surgery assistance. The little cafe across from her clinic felt intimate, tucked away from the main street. We sat by the window, and I caught myself studying the way afternoon light caught the gold in her hair. So what brought you to El Paso? I asked. Fresh start. Needed space from my old life. She stirred her coffee thoughtfully. You ever feel trapped by other people's expectations? Every damn day. Something shifted between us then. The professional distance melted away, replaced by recognition. Two women who'd built walls around their hearts, sitting across from each other in a coffee shop, suddenly seeing themselves reflected in someone else's eyes. I should warn you, Tessa said, leaning closer. I don't usually rescue birds with mysterious archery instructors. And I don't usually perform veterinary procedures with beautiful strangers. The word beautiful slipped out before I could stop it. Tessa's cheeks flushed pink, but she didn't look away. Anna, she said quietly. Yeah? I'm glad we met in that garden. Before I could lose my nerve, I reached across the table and touched her hand. Just briefly, just enough to feel her warmth. She didn't pull away. Me too. Our Tuesday morning garden meetings became sacred. Week after week, Tessa would arrive with her scientific approach to soil pH, while I brought decades of trial and error experience. We made an unlikely team, but damn if those plants didn't thrive under our combined attention. Your roses are responding beautifully to the mycorrhizal fungi, Tessa observed, crouching beside my prized bushes. In English, Doc? Good dirt makes happy flowers. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months. Why didn't you just say that? Because then I couldn't show off my veterinary school vocabulary. This was our rhythm now. Her scientific precision balanced by my intuitive knowledge, creating something neither of us could achieve alone. But it wasn't just about gardening anymore. Want to see where the magic happens? I asked one morning, nodding toward the archery range. Tessa's eyes lit up with curiosity. Absolutely. I'd taught dozens of people over the years, but watching Tessa handle a bow felt different. She approached it like everything else, methodical and focused, but there was grace in her movements that took my breath away. Breathe in, draw back, I instructed, standing behind her to adjust her stance. Now release on the exhale. My hands covered hers on the grip, and I felt her body tense slightly at the contact. The arrow sailed wide of the target, but neither of us moved apart. Again, she whispered. This time I stayed closer, my chest almost touching her back as I guided her form. The second arrow hit the outer ring. Better, I murmured near her ear. She turned in my arms then, and we were suddenly face to face, barely inches apart. Those blue eyes searched mine, asking a question I wasn't sure I was ready to answer. Anna, she said softly. Yeah? I've been thinking about you, a lot. My heart hammered against my ribs. Tessa, I'm 25 years older than you. So? So you should be dating women your own age, starting families, building futures. What if I want to build a future with you? The words hung between us like a bridge neither of us had expected. Rain started pattering on the range roof, giving us an excuse to run for cover. My apartment was closer. We stood in my kitchen, dripping and laughing when the laughter suddenly stopped. Tessa stepped closer, raindrops still clinging to her eyelashes. I know this is complicated, she said, but I can't stop thinking about kissing you. Tessa. Tell me to leave, and I will. Instead, I reached up and touched her face, feeling the softness of her skin beneath my palm. When I leaned in, she met me halfway. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, like we were both afraid of breaking something precious. Then her arms came around me, and 25 years of age difference disappeared. There was only this moment, this woman, this feeling I thought I'd never experience again. When we finally broke apart, we stayed close, foreheads touching. Well, I said breathlessly, that definitely complicates things. The next week, everything felt different. Tessa texted me good morning messages that made my coffee taste better, and I caught myself smiling at random moments during archery lessons. But good things in my life had a way of getting complicated. You're glowing, Lisa said to Tessa during lunch at the veterinary clinic. New skincare routine or new woman? Tessa nearly choked on her sandwich. Lisa had been her colleague for 3 months now, sharp-eyed and protective in that way close friends develop. Just been getting more exercise, Tessa deflected. Uh-huh. What kind of exercise involves archery equipment in your car? I didn't know about this conversation until Tessa told me later, but I was having my own version with Derek at the range. You've been different lately, he observed, watching me adjust targets with unusual care. Happier? It's weird. Thanks for the backhanded compliment. I'm serious, Anna. Haven't seen you smile this much since I've known you. What's her name? Who says there's a her? 55 years old and suddenly humming while you work? Definitely a woman. That evening, Tessa came to my apartment looking troubled. We'd planned to cook dinner together, something that had become our Tuesday tradition, but she seemed distracted. Lisa thinks I'm having an affair, she said, uncorking wine with more force than necessary. Are you? With a married woman? No. With a woman who makes my heart race every time she texts me? Absolutely. I set down the onion I was chopping. Tessa, maybe we should talk about what this is. What do you mean? I'm 55. You're 30. People are going to have opinions. Since when do you care what people think? Since I started caring about you. She was quiet for a long moment, swirling wine in her glass. You know what Lisa said today? She said I should be careful about getting involved with someone who's already set in their ways. Maybe she's right. Is that what you think? That you're too old to change? The question hit deeper than I expected. I think I'm too old to pretend this doesn't terrify me. What terrifies you? That you'll wake up one day and realize you wasted your youth on someone who can't give you what you deserve. Tessa set down her wine and moved closer. And what do I deserve, Anna? Someone who can grow old with you instead of someone who's already halfway there. That's bullshit, and you know it. Her voice was sharp now, frustrated. You think I don't know my own mind? You think I'm some confused kid who doesn't understand what she wants? I think you're amazing, and I think you could have anyone. I don't want anyone. I want you. The conviction in her voice stopped me cold. But before I could respond, my phone rang. My ex-girlfriend Rachel's name flashed on the screen. Don't answer it, Tessa said quietly. I already had. Rachel's voice filled the kitchen, talking about visiting El Paso, wanting to see me, missing what we used to have. When I hung up, Tessa was staring at me with hurt and confusion. Ex-girlfriend? Yeah. From 5 years ago. And she just calls out of nowhere? It's complicated. Everything's complicated with you, isn't it, Anna? The fight that followed was our first real one, full of accusations and fears we'd both been carrying. Tessa left that night without dinner, without goodbye, and I sat alone in my kitchen wondering if I'd just destroyed the best thing that had happened to me in years. We hadn't spoken in 4 days, when the fire alarm shrieked through my building at 2 a.m. I stumbled out of bed, grabbed my robe, and rushed into the hallway where smoke was already creeping under Mrs. Patterson's door. Everyone out. Maya, my neighbor from 3B, was pounding on doors. Fire in the electrical room. The stairwell filled with confused residents in pajamas and robes. That's when I saw her. Tessa, clutching a carrier with her cat, looking as startled as I felt. Anna? What are you doing here? I live in 2C now. Just moved in yesterday. Of course. The universe had a twisted sense of humor. We evacuated to the parking lot where firefighters were already hosing down the building. Maya appeared beside us, shivering in her thin nightgown. Electrical fire, she said grimly. Building's going to be uninhabitable for at least a week. Damn, I muttered, watching water pour from my apartment windows. You can stay with me, Maya offered. My couch pulls out. Thanks, but I'll find a hotel. Anna, Tessa said quietly, my new place is furnished. You could... I don't think that's a good idea. Don't be stubborn. It's just practical. Maya looked between us with obvious curiosity but didn't comment. 3 hours later, after insurance calls and fire department interviews, I found myself carrying a hastily packed bag into Tessa's apartment. Coffee? She asked, moving around her kitchen with familiar efficiency. Please. The apartment was smaller than mine but felt warmer somehow. Personal touches were already emerging from moving boxes, veterinary journals on the coffee table, a framed photo of mountains I didn't recognize. Where was that taken? I asked, nodding at the photo. Colorado, before vet school. You look happy there. I was. Hiking alone for 2 weeks, no expectations, no one to disappoint. The comment stung because I knew it was directed at me. Our fight hung between us like smoke, acrid and uncomfortable. Tessa, about the other night. Don't. We're both tired. But, lying on her couch later, listening to her move around the bedroom, I couldn't sleep. The fire had stripped away all my careful defenses, leaving me raw and honest in a way that terrified me. Anna? Her voice came soft through the darkness. Are you awake? Yeah. I keep thinking about what you said, about wasting my youth. I sat up on the couch. She was standing in her bedroom doorway, silhouetted by the hallway light. You were right about one thing, she continued. I could have anyone. But I don't want safe or predictable or age-appropriate. I want you, all of you. Even the parts that are scared. Tessa. I'm not asking you to be someone else. I'm asking you to trust that I know what I want. She moved closer, and in the dim light I could see the determination in her eyes. When she reached for my hand, I didn't pull away. The couch is terrible for your back, she said softly. Come to bed. Just sleep. But once we were under the covers, sleep became impossible. Her warmth beside me, the scent of her shampoo on the pillow, the way she unconsciously moved closer in the darkness. When she turned to face me, our noses were almost touching. Anna, she whispered. This time when she kissed me, there was nothing tentative about it. Her hands found the hem of my shirt, and I didn't stop her. We moved together with an urgency born of almost losing each other, of walls finally crumbling. Her skin was soft under my palms, and when she gasped my name, everything else disappeared. There was only this moment, this woman, this connection that felt both inevitable and miraculous. We held each other afterward, hearts still racing, and I finally understood what Tessa had been trying to tell me. Age was just a number when hearts found their match. What was supposed to be temporary became beautifully permanent. Living with Tessa felt like discovering a language I'd always known but never spoken fluently. She made coffee exactly how I liked it without asking, and I learned she preferred the left side of the bed, and always read 3 pages before sleep. Your insurance adjuster called, she said one morning, handing me coffee and the phone. Apartment's ready for move-in. I stared at the phone like it was delivering bad news. 3 weeks of domestic bliss with Tessa had spoiled me for living alone. That's good news, right? She asked carefully. Yeah. Great news. But neither of us moved to start packing my things. Our routines had intertwined seamlessly. She'd wake early for the clinic while I'd head to the range, but we'd meet for lunch at that little cafe where everything started. Evenings were spent cooking together, her scientific approach to recipes balancing my wing-it style. You put way too much garlic in everything, she observed, watching me prepare pasta sauce. And you measure oregano like you're performing surgery. I am very precise. You're very cute when you're precise. She blushed, even after 3 weeks of compliments. That vulnerability in someone so competent at everything else never failed to undo me. Derek noticed the change immediately when I showed up at the range humming again. Whoever she is, she's good for you, he said, adjusting target distances. Haven't seen you this relaxed since I've known you. She's something special. Bring her around sometime. I want to meet the woman who made Anna Ross smile. Maybe I will. The idea terrified and thrilled me equally. Introducing Tessa to my work world felt like making us official in a way that went beyond sharing a bed and morning coffee. That evening, I found her reading veterinary journals on the couch, glasses perched on her nose, looking adorably studious. Derek wants to meet you, I said, settling beside her. Really? He says you make me happy. Do I? Instead of answering with words, I took off her glasses and kissed her softly. She set aside her journal and pulled me closer, and soon we were tangled together on the couch, hands exploring familiar territory that somehow felt new every time. Anna, she whispered against my neck. What happens when your apartment's ready? The question hung between us like a bridge we were both afraid to cross. Living together had happened by accident, but choosing it felt monumental. I don't know, I admitted. I like having you here. I like being here. Then stay. She said it simply, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Maybe it was. Tessa, are you sure? It's only been 3 weeks. Anna, I've been sure since that first morning in the garden. Everything else has just been catching up. Her certainty undid me completely. I kissed her again, deeper this time, and she responded with the passion that never failed to surprise me. We made love right there on the couch, urgent and tender, sealing an unspoken promise. Later, wrapped in her bathrobe and eating ice cream directly from the container, I called my insurance company. I've decided not to move back in, I told the adjuster. Keep the settlement check. Tessa grinned and stole the spoon from my hand. Welcome home, she said. The Community Garden Spring Festival felt like our public debut, though neither of us had planned it that way. Tessa wore a sundress that made her eyes look impossibly blue, and I couldn't stop stealing glances at her as we walked through the crowd. Nervous? She asked, squeezing my hand. Should I be? Only if you care what people think. But the truth was, I did care. Not about strangers, but about the people who mattered. Derek was here somewhere with his wife, and Maya had promised to stop by. These were the people who'd become my chosen family in El Paso. Anna? Maya waved from the rose display booth. Tessa, your hybrid teas are gorgeous. We'd entered 3 arrangements together, our names side by side on the entry cards. Seeing them there, officially paired, made something warm unfurl in my chest. You two make quite the team, said Mrs. Patterson, the elderly woman from my old building. Complementary skills. That's one way to put it, Tessa murmured in my ear, making me blush. Derek found us near the vegetable displays, his wife Carmen beside him. I'd known this moment would come, but my heart still hammered as I made introductions. So you're the one, Derek said, shaking Tessa's hand. Anna's been different since you came along. Happier. I could say the same about her effect on me, Tessa replied easily. Carmen studied us with the sharp eyes of someone who'd been married 30 years. How long have you two been together? Officially? About a month, I said. Unofficially? Feels like longer. Good relationships do that, Carmen smiled. Time becomes irrelevant when you find your person. As we walked away, Tessa bumped my shoulder playfully. That wasn't so bad. They like you. Did you think they wouldn't? I thought they might think I was having a midlife crisis. Are you? I considered this seriously. If falling in love with you is a midlife crisis, then I'm having the best crisis of my life. Later that evening, back at what had become our apartment, I found Lisa sitting on the couch with Tessa, sharing a bottle of wine and laughing about something on Tessa's phone. Anna! Lisa stood to hug me. I've heard so much about you. All good things, I hope. Mostly, she winked. Tessa's been insufferably happy lately. It's actually quite sweet. Lisa brought dinner, Tessa explained. Thai food and apologies for being overprotective. I was wrong about you, Lisa said directly. I thought Tessa was rebounding from her ex, but this is clearly something different. She lights up when she talks about you. The evening flowed easily, 3 women sharing stories and wine. When Lisa finally left, Tessa and I cleaned up together in comfortable silence. Thank you, she said as I loaded the dishwasher. For what? For letting people in. I know it's not easy for you. She was right. I'd spent years keeping my private life separate from everything else, but with Tessa, those walls felt unnecessary. When she moved behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist, I leaned back into her warmth. Anna? Yeah? I love you. The words hit me like electricity, not because they were unexpected, but because they were exactly what I'd been feeling without courage to say. I turned in her arms. I love you too. When she kissed me, it tasted like wine and promises. We made our way to the bedroom slowly, hands exploring, hearts wide open. This time our lovemaking was different, deeper somehow, infused with the knowledge that we'd chosen each other completely. Her skin was warm under my hands, and when she whispered my name, it sounded like coming home. We held each other afterward, finally able to name what we'd been building together. I love you, I whispered again, because saying it once wasn't enough. I love you too, she replied, kissing my forehead. Always. 6 months after moving in together, we'd found our rhythm. Tessa would leave early for the clinic while I handled morning archery lessons, meeting for lunch when our schedules aligned. It was domestic bliss until the letter arrived. What's that? Tessa asked, finding me staring at official letterhead at the kitchen table. Job offer. Training position with the Olympic Development Program. Her face went carefully neutral. Where? Colorado Springs. Full-time coaching position, housing included. We both knew what this meant. I'd mentioned my Olympic dreams exactly once, years ago when I was younger and more ambitious. Now opportunity was knocking when I least expected it. That's incredible, Anna. You have to take it. Do I? It's what you've always wanted. But was it? 3 months ago, maybe? Now my definition of always wanted had shifted dramatically toward blue eyes and morning coffee rituals. What about us? I asked. We'll figure it out. That evening, we barely touched dinner. The elephant of my potential departure sat between us like a third person at the table. How long would you be gone? Tessa finally asked. 2 years minimum. Maybe longer if I advanced to head coach. 2 years. Tessa, I don't have to take it. Yes, you do. This is your career, your dream. My dreams have changed. She reached across the table and took my hand. Anna, I won't be the reason you don't chase something you've worked 20 years for. And I won't chase something that takes me away from the best thing in my life. The fight that followed was our biggest yet. Not angry, but raw and painful, full of sacrifices neither of us wanted to make. I could come with you, Tessa said finally. You just built your practice here. Lisa depends on you. Practices can be rebuilt. Not without starting over completely. You'd lose everything you've worked for. We sat in silence, both understanding the impossible position we were in. Two people in love, facing the kind of choice relationships don't usually survive. What if we try long distance? She suggested. For 2 years? People do it. Do they? Successfully? Neither of us had an answer. That night we made love with desperate intensity, as if we could somehow preserve this feeling for whatever came next. Her body fit against mine perfectly, every touch magnified by the possibility of goodbye. When she gasped my name, I memorized the sound. When I traced the curve of her hip, I tried to burn the feeling into my fingers. We held each other afterward, neither wanting to sleep and lose these precious hours. I have an idea, Tessa whispered in the darkness. Yeah? Don't decide yet. Give me a week. Tessa. Just 1 week, please. I agreed, though I couldn't imagine what difference 7 days would make. But Tessa had that determined look I'd learned to respect, the same focus she brought to complex surgeries. 3 days later, she came home grinning like she'd won the lottery. I made some calls, she announced, dropping her bag and pulling me into her arms. What kind of calls? The kind where I talked to the veterinary college in Colorado Springs. They need a clinical instructor. My heart stopped. Tessa. It's not permanent, just a 2-year teaching contract. I could keep my license active and gain teaching experience. You'd do that? Leave your practice? Anna, don't you get it yet? You are my practice. You're my everything. When she kissed me, it tasted like possibility and second chances. We were both crying and laughing, spinning around the kitchen like teenagers. Are you sure? I asked when we finally stopped spinning. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. I love you so damn much. Then let's go chase your dreams together. That night, we called the Olympic program and accepted. Colorado, here we come. 1 year later, our El Paso community garden had transformed into something magical. What started as 2 separate plots had become an integrated masterpiece, roses intertwining with herbs, vegetables thriving alongside flowers in perfect harmony. Remember when you thought I was too scientific? Tessa laughed, adjusting the drip irrigation system we'd installed together. I remember thinking you were beautiful and terrifying, I corrected, deadheading roses that had grown twice their original size. Colorado had been everything we'd hoped. My coaching position with the Olympic Development Program challenged me in ways I'd forgotten I missed, while Tessa's teaching role at the veterinary college proved she was a natural educator. But El Paso had called us home after 2 years, and Derek had welcomed me back to the range with open arms. Ladies, the photographer's ready. Maya called from the garden gate. Today was our anniversary party, celebrating 3 years together in the place where we'd first met. Lisa was setting up tables while Derek strung lights between the trees. Carmen was directing Maya and several other neighbors in hanging decorations that would make Martha Stewart weep with envy. I can't believe you planned all this without me knowing, Tessa said, squeezing my hand. I had help, lots of help. The truth was, everyone had been in on the surprise. 3 years of watching our relationship grow had turned our friends into invested conspirators. As guests began arriving, I felt that familiar flutter of nerves, not about the party but about what I planned to do during it. You look beautiful, I whispered to Tessa as she greeted Lisa with a hug. So do you. That dress is perfect. I'd chosen carefully, wanting to look special for what I hoped would be one of the most important moments of our lives. The party flowed around us like a warm river. Derek made a toast about love knowing no boundaries. Carmen shared the story of how she'd known we were meant for each other the moment she saw us at the spring festival. Lisa presented us with a photo album documenting our relationship through candid shots she'd secretly taken over the years. Speech, someone called out. I looked at Tessa, my heart hammering against my ribs. Actually, I do have something to say. The crowd quieted, sensing something significant was about to happen. 3 years ago, I thought my life was settled. I had my routine, my garden, my work. I thought I knew what happiness looked like. I took Tessa's hand, feeling it tremble slightly in mine. Then this beautiful, brilliant woman showed up and changed everything. "Anna?" Tessa whispered, tears already starting. "You taught me that age is just a number when hearts find their match. You showed me that love isn't about playing it safe, it's about choosing to grow together." I dropped to one knee, pulling the ring box from my pocket. The crowd gasped collectively. "Tessa Alexander, will you marry me?" Her answer came through tears and laughter. "Yes, of course, yes." When I slipped the ring onto her finger, our friends erupted in cheers, but all I could see was Tessa's face, radiant with joy and love. "I love you," she said, pulling me up for a kiss that tasted like forever. "I love you too, always." As we held each other, surrounded by the people who'd become our chosen family, I marveled at how perfectly imperfect life could be. At 58, I was planning a wedding. At 33, Tessa was choosing a future with someone society said was wrong for her. But standing in our garden, where roses and herbs grew in beautiful harmony, where careful planning met intuitive wisdom, I knew we'd found something rare and precious. Love that bloomed against all odds, in its own time, in its own way.